You're listening to the newest member of the 210 Podcast Network, the It's a Guy Thing podcast. Join Mike, Rick, and Mario as we discuss the things we love in life, the things we hate, and all the stuff in between.
Thanks for tuning into the podcast. This is Mario.
I'm Michael.
This is Rick.
And in the words of Marvin Gaye, let's get it on. Okay, so we weren't going to really talk about this as a topic all on its own necessarily, but we thought that it should be mentioned. My wife had a birthday recently, and at the
Happy birthday,
Sarah! And while we were there, we were kind of talking about some stuff. Specifically, I think Rick, did you bring it up at the?
I think so. I think I brought it. We were at Luna jamming to some jammings.
Some ska,
some
reggae, soul kind of music.
Voodoo skulls.
It was interesting. It was good though. It wasn't. I mean, it was. I don't know. I'd rather hear a local band. It's funny too because they were out of Austin.
That's local, man.
That's not that.
It's
local.
in the Metroplex.
It's not in my local book. Anyway, the topic that Rick had brought up for the night was who you would pay, or rather, what song you would pay to hear live if you had to pay like $40.
Right. Just one. If you had to pay full concert price for one song of whatever existing band there is, what would it be? And we were trying to think of like 2 or 3 names you could throw off the top
there
of
was
your
a
head.
bunch that had come out that night that were really good too. I think Carolyn had mentioned a few that kind of changed my mind a little bit, and I think she ended up mentioning like 6.
Yeah, she had a plethora.
Yeah, and all really good too. I think one of the ones that she had mentioned was actually no, the one that I mentioned because of her changing my mind was "Big Empty" by Stone Temple Pilots. I think that would be phenomenal live.
Yeah. So, what do you think, Mike? Any ideas? Did you get to ponder on it?
Well, since the last episode, we were talking about those soundtracks with Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's tons of other bands I would love to hear live, but just sticking on them, since they are a pretty amazing live show, because I'm taking into consideration not just how much I like a band, but what the band gives me in return for performance. Nine Inch Nails probably has one of the top 5 visual performances that go along with their exceptional music on stage. I would love to hear them play Dead Souls from The Crow. Yes. I would love to hear We're in This Together from The Fragile. Either of those two would be amazing to hear live.
Not Piggy?
They probably play that a little too much. Like I think Nine Inch Nails could completely retire Head Like a Hole from the live set. I'm completely over it. Like
I don't think people will miss it either.
They should never.
It's a great
play
song,
it.
but I don't think anyone would.
Radiohead
too much.
Radiohead stopped playing Creep like 10 years ago, and that's still the song people know them for. But yet, the people that aren't true fans, or decent fans,
and that's me,
like they're like, "Oh, play Creep," and like they haven't played it in 10+ years because they don't need to. And I think
that whole album
stop playing.
Wasn't that whole album like just they said let's do this so that way we can become famous, and then
pretty much
then let's do what we want to do.
Yeah,
it worked for them.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those fans.
Someone should yell like play Creep, and they're like no, play STP's Creep. What do you think about that?
Or play TLC's Creep.
You think about that, Sloth Eye?
Whoa. Came out early this episode. Damn.
And Tom York is twitching somewhere.
I
don't really appreciate that, Rick, but I can't say I'm surprised at all. Just the look of you. You've just got that look about you.
So let's throw out some more, Rick. You had some other ones.
I think I had a couple.
What were the ones that you picked that night?
James Taylor, Fire and Rain. I've never got to see him live. I know he's played here a couple times. I know he's played with like the symphony and stuff.
Who's that?
It's Lawrence Taylor's dad. Lawrence Taylor's dad.
Not Mike Taylor from Sports 760 local.
Oh.
Wow.
I don't know who that is. That's Taylor Swift's dad.
We have to say Rick might be a little inebriated for this episode.
Taylor Dane.
I mean, drinking orange juice. This is orange juice from Mike's refrigerator.
Taylor Hawkins.
In a can.
Taylor Hawkins.
Sadie Hawkins? No.
Jonathan Taylor Hawkins.
Okay, so James Taylor, Fire and Rain.
James Taylor, Fire and Rain, definitely. I've never got to see him live. I imagine I'll get a chance at some point. You never know, unless he kicks it.
Ooh.
But if he doesn't, that's definitely a song that I just love that song. I've always loved that song. It's always reminded me of my mom. and I just love it. That's the song that I always, if you've ever had the chance to see me butcher some karaoke, that's usually the song I do. Another song.
Let me add a third dimension to that, though.
Yes.
Do you want to hear him sing it now as he currently is?
Oh, well, no, I will say now. I won't cheat and say like him 30 years ago. Like him now. The guy's still good.
That does make the difference for a lot of people.
Yeah. No, but the guy's still good. I'd like to hear him sing it now like he did on the record.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like, without changing it and doing some 17-minute, like, solo or something.
Yeah.
Another one, definitely Gordon Lightfoot doing
Gold.
If You Could Read My Mind. I love that song. Another song. And I'm being sentimental because these are songs, like, really, like, I listen to when I'm alone and it kind of have specific memories attached to. So, probably, like, Carole King doing,
so
like...
nice, yeah.
Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow?
Wow.
I mean, because those are, like, people that I probably wouldn't ever get a chance to see. Like, I was actually, like... The reason why I thought about this is because Gordon Lightfoot, like, played at Majestic a couple of weeks ago. And I remember hearing about, like, the day of, like, seeing it on Instagram. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was like, wow, I would go just to see him play that song. I don't know a lot of his stuff. I mean, I'm not a huge fan or anything. I just love that song.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why I thought of it. Because I was like, I would pay $40 because I'm sure the rest of his stuff's great, too. So that's why I got thinking about it. But those I think... Off the top of my head, those are three I would definitely go with.
I wanted to, now that I've had a chance to think about it, I would actually love to hear, because I'll probably never see them live, I would love to hear Underworld play Born Slippy live.
Ooh,
That's
awesome.
what I would like to see.
And you get bang for your buck. It's a long-ass song.
Exactly.
It's a 10-minute
It's
song.
a 10-minute song. That would be incredible, because I've never seen them live, and they're never going to travel, so that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm drawing a blank for some of the ones that I mentioned that night, but one that I got to say...
You said Smash Mouth, Walking on the Sun.
No, definitely not.
You said...
Mother's Milk.
You said House of Pain,
from Red
Jump
Hot Chili
Around.
Peppers. And then you said you wanted to hear Queen and Vanilla Ice do a duo so they could do their song together at the same time.
Slip the note back in.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead.
That's not what I said. By any means, that's not what I said. No, I would...
he wants to hear Girl in a Coma perform Vanilla Ice.
Slap him. Hit him. You're close enough to hit him.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We don't need violence in this. No, I'd have to say one of the ones that kind of came to my mind just a little while ago, and it's funny because I've already heard it live.
Bush.
But I would love I would pay $40 to hear it again live. Rick and I got to see Pucifer at the Majestic.
Yeah.
That was outstanding. They're that version of Mama Said,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not a fan of the original untweaked version of Mama Said that's a little bit faster paced.
Yeah, with the loop.
Oh my god, the way they did it at that show was just perfect. I would pay to see that again.
Yeah,
I thought it was amazing. And
you're just giving Maynard more money to plant more vines.
That's fine.
More grapes.
That's fine. I don't care.
Okay, good.
You're right though. That was great.
Yeah,
and we saw them twice together, right?
Yeah,
In
we saw them.
And then at
Austin and
that's a band I would
Lila
see
Cockrell?
over and over again.
yeah.
I would trade 100 tools for one Pucifer.
Only show I've ever been to where it is absolutely mandated that you cannot have your cell phone out or use it at all, and that is how music should be seen.
Yeah.
You cannot take a picture of this moment because it's already gone, says Nate Fisher from 6 Feet Under. I mean, that is the best way to see a show.
Yeah.
And seated, even though people don't sit the whole time, just not having, general admission, and
yeah, we're old. We don't need a stand anymore.
No,
I don't want
good
to
with
stand
seating.
anymore.
it was fantastic.
And I remember it was before, it wasn't even like we were talking and like the show hadn't even started, and I actually like absentmindedly grabbed my phone and I pulled it out, and that lady was like, "Put that phone away right now."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh god."
That was awesome.
And we saw people get like
Some
tossed out
people
for
got
like
ejected.
pulling their phone out, which is awesome because
That's good.
They
That's
tell
good,
you there's
yeah.
a video beforehand. That says,
It was very Alamo Draft House.
yeah, it was great.
Well, that's good. I'd have to say another one would be, and it just came out, went in my head and flew right back out. Pearl Jam's Release.
Nice.
I got to hear them play that live in the Wrigley Field. That's how they opened the Wrigley Field show.
But did they do the whole where it fades away and then
yes,
comes back in?
Yes.
That's a good one.
killed
That's a
it.
good
it
one.
was amazing.
I
You should
love
see
that song.
Highly recommend.
I've
it.
only seen Pearl Jam once,
It's
and
their
that was
choice.
at Rotama Park. And,
That was a badass show though.
It was. It really was.
They're
man.
all right.
They'd have to pay me to watch them.
Wow. So, any others, Mike?
Jambi. You say what you should have saying you wanted to hear. That's what that song's called.
From Tool?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You're like, I want to hear a 72-minute song so I can get my money's worth.
On a 4-song set list from Tool. No, I still need to hear. I want to hear Failure play Enjoy the Silence live.
That'd be awesome.
That's what I want. And if Failure's not going to come and play Austin or San Antonio, headlining and play Enjoy the Silence, since I've looked up their set list, so they're currently opening for Tool.
Mhm.
They've been playing like seven song set lists. And they don't even have the second guitarist like the way they used to have Troy Van Leeuwen. It's just the three. It's just Ken and Greg Edwards.
You
And I don't
they
know
have
who the drummer is.
since he's like,
but they're doing it on purpose. Like they're playing as a trio on purpose. And the sound is a little more stripped down than I'd like to hear it. But if they won't play Enjoy the Silence, then that's going to be a cover that I'll tackle myself. I will cover their cover.
Yeah,
it's
theirs was
that
awesome.
Failure's version of Enjoy the Silence is one of the best covers of a song. Period. Any cover.
Ooh,
if that was
show.
if that was a future topic, covers as
best
far as
covers.
best covers done, Failure's got to be in the top 5. So that's a band I would love to see live, and that specific song plus their whole catalog.
See, you guys exposed me to music that I've never heard of before, and then you guys look at me like you've never heard this before. So I can't wait to hear that one. I'm a huge cover guy.
It's great. It's
So
incredible.
Awesome. So diving right into the actual topics. First up, we've got Mike talking about movie sequels. Then Rick's going to talk about musicals, and then I'll be talking about ComicCon.
Woo!
And Mike will NPR us in.
Play us in, Keyboard Cat.
This is Keyboard Cat on National Public Radio. Keyboard Cat, brought to you by Kitty Chow. So, sequels, movie sequels, the best ones that have been done. The basic rule is the sequel has to have been equally as good as the first one, or better. If that's possible.
Yeah. Okay.
It can't just be because it was a good sequel.
Now, are we only talking about good movie sequels, or do we want to talk about shitty movie sequels too?
It really doesn't matter. I mean, I think to this day, I think Speed is a movie that holds the test of time. Godfather is my all-time favorite film, but I also thought Speed was amazing. Yep. If there was ever going to be a Top Gun sequel, I'm sure it would have been terrible. Although we've come up with some pretty cool storylines where Rick and I were writing the screenplay for Goose,
over text message.
Yeah, over text messaging. We were talking about Goose's son as the revenge. The movie opens up with him strangling Fat Kilmer to death.
Oh God!
And then because Iceman is the one who's responsible for Goose's death. It's actually his fault. And then he goes after Maverick. But the plot of him coming after Maverick, that'll take the whole rest of the film. And so you've got Goose's son, who goes by the new name Quacks. And then his dad, he call signs himself Quacks and joins the Russian Air Force and starts finding a way to exact his revenge. But anyway,
wow,
we'll work on that. We'll get the draft
you
ready.
Should sell that.
No, we're gonna
get Michael Bay involved.
It's gonna be
and
amazing.
then he'll cast Megan.
Jerry Bruckheimer's all over that. There'll be at least 50 explosions.
Megan, whose last name I've totally forgotten now.
Fox,
thank you.
But anyway, then we've also got the worst sequels to follow up good movies. That's really kind of what I'm after. I want to find, Leave Well Enough Alone, where there's a really great film, and then there's these horrendous sequels that just came out of nowhere. It doesn't matter why. They're in print. It doesn't matter if it was for the cash cow syndrome or the filmmaker really thought they were making something good. So let's just get some stuff out there and talk about, some good movies and the ridiculous follow-ups. And then we can talk about, good movies that also had good sequels, but I don't think that's as got as much teeth as the crap.
Let's get that out of the way real quick. Best sequel ever, off the top of your head.
Again, trying not to be tunnel vision, but Godfather 2 is probably the best sequel to follow up a first film. I mean, because they're both flawless films, and it's hard to imagine that they're actually separate. But for me, really, and it's not just because they're my favorite. I look at it just from an empirical standpoint. They really do, because not talking about the third one, there's an example of should have just left it alone. 1, 2, done. 3's underrated. It's not a bad film on its own, but it's just unfair to compare it to that sequel. So I know it's a big name. Everyone knows the film. It's the number one all-time referenced pop culture phenomenon. But again, if
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday.
I don't think people understand it in its entirety sometimes. I think it's a lot more complex, but as a sequel, there always has to be a motivation of why you're telling the story. Why is the story continuing?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that one, a lot of people could argue, even me on certain days, you could really even say the second film is better than the first one. And these are two films that they get better with time. It gets better every time I watch it. So that's for me. That's where I stand on that one.
Ricker?
Best?
Yeah.
I'm gonna casually toss out, of course, like Empire Strikes Back, because that's easy. Even though it's a part of a trilogy, it's still the sequel.
Yeah, that's true.
I would
that's fair
easily
enough.
say that, but that one, I won't use that one because that's too easy.
We make the rules.
I would absolutely, without a doubt, say Aliens.
Ooh, very nice.
I mean, it's in my.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely prefer Aliens to Alien. It's a better movie. It's a different movie, which is great. Which was the smart thing about it, is that they didn't try James Cameron when he took over for Ridley Scott. I mean, Alien is, a horror movie. It's a haunted house movie, except in space with an alien instead of a monster.
Yeah.
Or whatever, ghost. And Aliens, it's a war movie. It's a war movie, except you take away bad guys and you make them aliens. And for me, I mean, it's a movie that as a kid it terrified me, and as I got older, I appreciated it more and more. It's got a couple of my favorite actors in it, so easily Aliens, hands down.
Nice.
My two runners-up were probably Terminator 2, following up Terminator 1, and Back to the Future 2, following up Back to the Future 1.
Nice.
At the time, those were mind-blowing sequels.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Still great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Terminator 2 is my close second, and it's funny because I was going to discount it because it was the second part of a trilogy, but really The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger, to me, far superior than the first one with what said Leslie Nielsen.
That would have been a movie.
The Naked Bat. But I really truly think that he stole most of that movie anyway, but I really think that the writing was superior, the characters were superior. There was some stuff that just didn't need to be there, but it was less of that and more of the darkness that the Dark Knight really needed. Ledger added that whole new kind of darkness.
Do you really feel that film was far superior when my voice was normal in the first one?
That's one thing that I hate that got worse with each film was Christian Bale's inability to talk with that mouth guard.
What about my voice? I thought my voice was great in the third one.
That was really weird.
Oh, come on.
It was really a strange voice. And even though I love Anne Hathaway, I don't think the character of Catwoman was captured in any way, shape, or form. She just happened to be a thief who had goggles that went on her head that made her look like a cat. That was it.
Selena Kyle.
Yeah, I'd rather have.
She was pretty.
I'd rather
she was
have
pretty in
Michelle
that movie.
Pfeiffer.
She's not always pretty, but she was pretty. In that
No, I think she was.
Anne
gorgeous.
Hathaway on the
Huge Anne Hathaway
Batsicle?
fan. Yes.
That's a cool.
Whatever it's
Bat
called.
cycle. It's not an icicle.
The Bat Pod, the
The
Batsicle.
tumbler? No, not the tumbler. Bat cycle, not Batsicle.
The tickler.
The tumbler.
It's called a
The tumbler
tickler.
was in the first film. No, and the second film, right?
It was the Bat Pod. is what
Best-
it's
The
called.
Bat Pod.
Was it called the Bat Pod?
The
Sure.
Batsicle.
You like that?
Yeah.
Well, they called the flying one in the third one the Bat. That was real cute.
Like the fruit bat, the vampire bat.
So are
It's
they-
named after different bats.
Yeah. Are there any honorable mentions? I know you've thrown out a couple. I'm still trying
Yeah.
to think of mine.
Gremlins 2. I'm kidding.
Oh, God.
Wow.
Okay, so
So there's a lot more. I mean, that's the thing is there's a
lot more bad ones. All right, well, then we can just dive right into that. And
I'll throw out a bad one off the top of my head. Bad sequel. Highlander 2. Highlander 2. It was
Terrible.
called The Quickening. Was it called The Quickening?
Yeah, something like that.
The first one was a great movie, and the problem with the second one to me was always, and it was kind of like I'm kind of contradicting what I said about Aliens earlier, because they tried to go a different way when they had really created such a cool concept, which was the idea of immortals, the idea of these people being humans and being, just supernatural humans, like they had this, the special thing. They're immortals and you cut their head off and you absorb their power, and it was cool. Like it was for an 80s movie, which by the way had an awesome soundtrack by Queen. It was a very well contained mythology in its own little movie, and it's one of those movies that they had just stopped right there. You can create the movie on your own. You can create the sequels and be happy with it. And of course, what they did, they came out and made a sequel. which the upside is Virginia Madsen was in it, who's awesome and hot.
Very gorgeous.
But
Electric Dreams. Do you ever see her in Electric Dreams?
Yes.
Underrated movie.
Yeah.
That's one of the first things that got me into science and technology was Electric Dreams. She's amazing.
I just sent that trailer to Jeff the other day.
Really?
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Great movie.
And I am totally unfamiliar.
And she's amazing in Sideways, even 25 years later.
Yep, she's amazing in everything. I'm just kidding.
See, I'm trying, and I'm surfing the net right now to find mine.
with William L. Peterson.
Ouch.
Yeah, so the guy in Electric Dreams, this guy buys a computer, but it's like 80s style. So it's like he buys his computer and he hooks it into everything in his house, so it runs like his utilities,
his
it runs
blender,
everything,
his toaster,
everything.
It's very
So he's like this
sci-fi.
dork, and he's in love with his girl lives like above him or whatever. She's like a cellist, like a concert cellist or something. He's in love with her. He can't talk to her. She's beautiful. All this stuff.
Yeah.
And so he starts getting confidence and blah 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 whatever. But as his computer gets more intelligent, the computer falls in love with her too. So then they're in competition for the woman, and eventually the computer like realizes, becomes self-aware and is like, I have to kill you to get my woman.
Oh wow!
But there's like a really cool line in the trailer. You should watch the trailer in a second, where he's like, you don't know what love is, and the computer's like, you never taught me how to love, like or something like that.
That sounds familiar. I think I've heard that reference.
Man,
and it's one of the few films where you feel bad for a piece of technology
Yeah.
because at the end he ends up. You can't just unplug this poor machine.
Yeah.
He has to completely destroy it. He has to
Jeez.
pour champagne down the keyboard
and
and the
everything,
motherboard,
and the thing's still
and
kicking.
just destroy the crap out of it with I don't even remember Bad or something like that.
What
and
people don't know is that it's actually a prequel to Terminator. That was the first Skynet.
that was Skynet. That was
Skynet's baby, Daddy.
Okay, so worse.
back to the. No, I was still back on the Highlander too.
Oh yes.
So the problem with that is that they tried to flip the whole page on it. They said, no, they're not. These like Scottish Highlander guys who just have this lineage that has this weird power. No, is they got to turn around and say, oh, they're aliens. They're from a different planet, and they have flying fucking skateboards and like
That's
they,
pretty weak.
it was horrible. It was really really bad, and they try to just take it in this completely different angle just for the sake of it, and it kind of crapped on the first movie, which is always the same thing. It's like this guy lives for hundreds of years. He falls in love. He has to watch everything he loved dies. And he finally comes to this kind of like penultimate moment in his life where he absorbs all that power. And you don't really know what that means or what happens from there. But, other than that thing, he becomes mortal, right? He can die after that. That's probably like part of it or whatever. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. But and it kind of shits on it when the next movie comes out and they're like, oh, yeah, it is because he was turned mortal. And then he gets the powers back or whatever in the second one because of some stupid reason. And they made a third one with frickin' Mario Van Peebles with dreadlocks and stuff. It just got worse and worse. And then the TV show, but let's not even get into that.
See, and I watch more of that than the actual films, but that's because I just wasn't exposed. So,
yeah, I don't think I've ever watched the
TV show.
The TV show. I mean, they even like butchered the frickin' like Queen theme song to it too. They say it was like 10 seconds long. That's a great song. Great song.
See, and I'm scouring the internet right now, and I can't find something that I would count along mine, other than if you are aware that Desperado is a sequel, then yes, I would say Desperado to me would count in that. But then again, I've never seen. Actually, I think I've seen pieces of El Mariachi.
It's basically just a remake. It's the
right?
same.
It really is.
It's
the
not
same
even a
story.
sequel. They basically just reshot the entire movie with better cameras and Salma Hayek.
Oh, actually, here we go. I came across one that I can definitely agree with. Star Trek: Wrath of Khan. I think Wrath of Khan was freaking amazing.
That's good.
Great film.
I don't think I saw the original Star Trek movie, but the Wrath of Khan is a good movie.
Yeah.
I watched it in preparation for Into Darkness.
Oh, nice. Which, there we go again. I think
you could watch Benedict Cumberbatch voice.
The problem with, I like Benedict Cumberbatch, and I know he's like one of the it guys right now, but he really looks like that kid. You remember what's the movie Can't Hardly Wait with like Ethan Embry and Jennifer Love Hewitt,
Breckenmeyer?
Breckenmeyer, all them.
Yeah.
Well, there's a kid in the movie. It's like a little redhead kid. Pull up that movie on your computer, and he's the kid that steals everything. The whole movie he steals. That's every time I see him, I'm like, I think that's Benedict Cumberbatch when he was a little kid.
That's funny.
He looks like he's got the same like little fish face. But yeah, that guy is good.
What am I pulling up for Can't Hardly Wait?
Can't Hardly Wait. The cast list, man.
cast list.
It'll take you a while.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So while we're doing that,
Well,
Kill Bill Volume 2.
well, there you go.
that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Great follow-up to a great movie, but
It's got a rattlesnake bite, just like you like.
that's disgusting.
Just Google search rattlesnake bites images and
Do not
get disgusted.
do not under any circumstance.
Under any
Google,
circumstance.
No,
Given
I
what
am
either.
warning everybody
I got
not
to
to do
I got
this.
to see it on Mike's computer and I
It
stopped
is,
looking.
it is
I
the
was under-
worst.
But that was because Rick told him to look it up.
Yeah, don't do it.
Double dog dare ya.
No.
Family double dog dare ya.
You'll be sorry.
Okay, so I've got the cast list. Who are you saying? Ethan Embry?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. We'll figure it out later.
All right.
It's just that kid,
when
it's
the
like
time's right, we'll show you, Mario.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
So yeah, anyway, so Kill Bill Volume 2 I think is superior.
Well, those are pretty good for. So you were saying Aliens.
Aliens.
Alien
Yes.
as your top.
Yeah.
You're saying
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight as your top, and I was
Yeah.
saying Godfather 2 to Godfather 1, and then of course all the honorable mentions. So if they did a sequel to Aliens, could you call that Aliens Part 2?
Like,
No, I think
well, they
just
did. It was
dumped
Alien 3.
Aliens 3.
Oh,
Alien 3 was it picked up right after Aliens, which is even worse.
is that the one where
because-
she has the daughter?
No. Aliens is where she like has the surrogate daughter, right?
Okay,
That's Newt.
that's right.
And that's the problem. So real quick, let's get on this soapbox,
There it
right?
goes.
Wait, no, real quick,
What?
I gotta interject. So I went through Rolling Stone's Readers Poll Top 25. Godfather Part 2 is number 1.
Nice.
The second is Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Nice.
The third is Empire Strikes Back. The fourth is, come on, Aliens.
Ah.
The fifth is Dark Knight. And I think that's where we...
Check that out.
So
Yeah.
who needs
So
Peter
we
Travers?
picked the top
They got
5.
us.
We picked
You
the
guys
top
got
5.
us. You don't need to buy Rolling
Yeah,
Stone.
exactly. So I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Unsubscribe.
Go ahead.
We're here for you.
What was I talking about before I was rudely interrupted?
Very sorry.
I'm just kidding.
You're about to tell us about Ripley.
Oh yeah, Aliens. So that's a even greater shitty example of kind of diluting and crapping out a story, which is Aliens, which is it's Aliens is a legitimate sequel to Alien in the sense that it's the same main character. It picks up 57 years later after a salvage recovery vessel finds her and brings her back to civilization and all that. They find the aliens on LV-426. They send her out with the Space Marines. All that. She finds an orphan child, takes the place of her own dead daughter, spends 3 hours protecting her while all the Marines die around her, trying to protect her. And the movie ends. Hicks gets away, burned up, but he gets away. Half of Bishop makes it home. Ripley and then Newt. And that's fine. The movie could have ended there, and they're floating home, and they could have just made it home. And what does Fox do? Like, they come up with Alien Cubed. It was actually like the cube symbol, like the 3.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
And of course, that was David Fincher's first movie, so there you go. And they just ruin it because what they did was in the first 5 minutes of the movie, they kill Hicks and they kill Newt. They don't even show them, and they turn it into a whole other nonsensical, crappy movie. And I can actually appreciate it now. Honestly, I can watch it now, and especially if you watch, I think they made the director's cut. As a standalone movie, it's a good kind of suspenseful, kind of well shot movie, but it's not. I don't know. I just never was a big fan.
Yeah.
Never was a big fan.
So now for shitty sequels,
I'm
That was
gonna.
one of
we
them.
can fire off a bunch.
Yeah, I'm gonna open up with what I think is probably the worst, biggest, and at the time, and this is why I feel bad because I always feel bad if I walk away from a theater feeling like I liked something,
Yeah.
and then I realize later that I was lying to myself. And I
Oh,
think you have to come down from that instant like Snickers bar high where it's sugary and it's very sweet and tasty, and then it digests and you're like, oh, it's over. It's not long lasting at all. And to this day,
king size.
exactly, I cannot think of a film where when it first came out, it was incredible, it was groundbreaking, it turned my whole world upside down. It had me and my college buddies talking for hours in the night, and the weeks on end, we were just discussing it and philosophizing and trying to break down the meaning of life, and just it did everything that I think film is supposed to do, and that was the first Matrix.
Yeah.
The first Matrix, just to this day, to me, still stands the test of time. It's a phenomenal film from start to finish that you can watch with complete enjoyability.
Yeah.
I have no critique of Keanu Reeves in the film as the lead because he does exactly what he's supposed to do.
Right.
And
Right.
the self-actualization at the end is a great acting moment for him. It's a great forward progress in the story that was leading up to that, and it has a legitimate ending. And even the little part where one could say when he's on the phone at the end and talking to them, I didn't walk away from that thinking, "Oh, I can't wait to see what happens." It just felt like that's awesome. It'll be taken care of. It's done. And so because it was such a monster film, it was so huge. Books started coming out of it on philosophy and this and this, and people trying to deconstruct the symbolism. I mean, you were just able to find so much entertainment, so much profound thought, so much introspection in your own life. And then out of the blue one day, I think it was Attack of the Clones or some movie I was at. But I think Attack of the Clones is the film that I was at, because I think that came out in May. And out of the blue, I'm sitting there, to watch that Star Wars prequel, the second one, and you just start seeing the computer code coming down the screen. Back then, in 2002, there wasn't viral marketing and YouTube and all this stuff. So the only way, and if you weren't in the know, the only way you knew a new movie was coming out was literally when you saw trailers. And that was something I really missed that. But I'll never forget that feeling of seeing the computer code coming down the screen right in the center, and then starts filling the rest of the screen. I'm like, I could feel like chills hitting me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. There's going to be another one. And I got so excited. And when I saw it, I remember thinking, again, I was blown away. But what I realized was I was blown away by visual effects and by a really cool car chase scene. And, because I've really never been that big into like the Kung Fu stuff. Monica Bellucci. I mean, that alone worth it. But I look back on it, and that sequel and the third one too, just
unnecessary,
horribly written, poorly put together, and those films suffered from their own curse, they suffered from their own success. Basically saying, when filmmakers have an unlimited budget and they have all of this success, it clouds them into thinking now they can't lose, and so. I think those Matrix sequels both suffered from, these guys looking at everything they did in the first one, and they weren't thinking, what is the story to tell? What is the progression of this story? What is, they didn't know that there was going to be more. So that's the first problem, is there wasn't intended to be more than that one. So that's already your first issue. But then when you're having to write yourself into more story, it's not even about that. Their focus was the classic filmmakers that are in technology is how can we do something that's never been done? What groundbreaking technique can we do? And then you started seeing bullet time in TV commercials and all this stuff. And it just got so, desensitized and oversaturated in media. But their goal was, well, let's make the biggest car chase scene on the highway ever, and let's do bigger explosions and bigger CG than's ever been done. And that's not the point. That's not the point of making a movie. And that's that Keanu Reeves where he's fighting the whole bunch of the Smiths,
the Burly Man fight or
that
something.
Is some of the worst action and CGI I have ever seen to date on screen, on rewatch, and I own that Blu-ray.
And the thing is, they had to had done previews and they're watching it themselves with studio heads and let's watch this, and they're and everyone's going, wow, that looks really awful.
Yeah, because the young guys who were part of it in the computer making it, and when the directors and stuff are in there, and they're like, what does everyone think? Who's got the guts to say, oh, I think it sucks. Oh, that looks terrible. Who's got the guts to be like,
they spent $50 million in that sequence.
Right. And again, you've got that yes man problem where nobody wants to tell George Lucas, the prequels are a bad idea, or directing them yourself and writing the dialogue's a bad idea,
Or futzing with the old ones.
Let's take Sebastian Shaw out of Jedi and put a non-smiling Hayden Christensen in at the end of Jedi. That's going to go over wonderfully. Stuff horrible. So for me, you guys take it from there, but argue with me on anything being worse than those Matrix sequels.
I think that
from how big it was.
For me, the Matrix sequels though, I have to look at 2 and 3 as a single giant movie and then discard it.
Well, they were made that way, they just cut them in half.
So I'd say other movie sequels that are just horrible. The sequel to Neverending Story, and I think they even made a third one. I don't even know. Sequel to Ninja Turtles.
Falcor.
So what was he saying the mom's name was? Moonchild, right? In the book, it's Moonchild.
Yes.
But in the movie, he's like...
We had a conversation about that one night, because I never knew what it was, and then Carol told me it was Star Child, which is what I thought it was too. And recently, Jimmy was telling us, he was like, "No, it's Moonchild," and we're like, "No." Like Jimmy's always right about weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we're like, "No," and he like pulls up on Wikipedia or whatever, and it was Moonchild.
Yeah.
Like, whoa! It's like blew my mind. Like blew our mind. For 20 years, I thought it
But
was.
were we
else.
ever supposed to have gotten that?
I think
from
in
film?
the book they actually it says the name.
Yeah,
so
but
I think you're.
But that's the
supposed
thing.
to
As a
know.
moviegoer, like the movie people that never knew about the book,
I always
lost out.
heard. I was like,
that
it just sounded like
like it sounded like a
nonsense.
5-word name. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
so that's one of them. Okay, all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ones. Let's see what else. I say we just start throwing some out. Rick, you got some bad ones?
Yeah, I'm gonna attack Keanu Reeves' legacy a little more and go after
Speed
2.
Yeah,
which
that's go
he
for it.
wasn't in. So that's not his fault.
True.
But what a great first movie, and then Jason Patrick and Sandra Bullock just create this complete poop on screen that is.
I've actually
the
never seen that one. And I like Jason Patrick a lot.
I can't remember
So,
seeing it, but it was terrible. Donnie Darko, one of my other favorite films,
yeah.
followed
Yeah,
up
bad
by
sequel.
S. Darko.
The only thing that was
that
kind
was
of cool
bad.
was it was the same actress grown up.
That was the
Well, that was
only
it.
cool
That was the
thing
thing.
about
It was
it.
a crap
Only cool
movie.
thing about it. Otherwise, it's terrible, and it was completely out of Kelly's hand as well. Just that's a bad recipe.
Triple X. I thought the first one was enjoyable as an action flick. And
Was that the Vin Diesel one?
Yeah.
Was Ice Cube in the second one?
Yes. No, I thought that was the third one.
There was more than 2?
I think so. I don't know.
Which one had Jack Lemmon in it?
I don't recall.
I'm just kidding.
Jack Lemmon. Wow, that's amazing. How about The Ring 2?
They make a
following
movie
up
called.
the
Is
Ring?
there an Eddie Murphy Eddie Murphy movie called Triple XL? It's like one of those clump movies or something. Like an action movie.
God.
I miss myself.
So I think that kind of does it for sequels.
Yeah.
We
Was
can.
Triple X Triple H? That's a wrestler, right?
Yes, that's a wrestler.
Like triple hernia. What does it stand for?
It's Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Oh, come on!
I'm serious.
Wow.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Why?
Because that when he first debuted on the wrestling scene, he was a regal wrestler. He would come out in these real nice robes and stuff like that. He had super long locks and
Like the
he
British
would
Bulldog?
Yeah, he would do curtsies and stuff in the ring, and he was very elegant before he would fight. And then he just when he shedded that. when
He's
he
a big guy,
when he
right?
shed-
Like
yeah.
a big. Is he
Got
the one that's in
got a
the?
big prominent nose.
He's in the.
He's married to McMahon's daughter.
Oh.
He's like a de facto inheritant of the company.
He's
Ed
in.
McMahon?
He's in one of the Blade
Wow.
movies, right? Isn't he in Blade Trinity?
That I have no idea.
He's one of the
Oh,
vampires.
well, there you go.
That I
There's
have no
another
idea.
one. Blade was good.
Blade 2 was good.
Blade 2 was good. Blade 3 was
Blade
garbage.
3 was good. Still good.
No,
Still
it
good.
wasn't.
It's a good movie.
No, it
How about
wasn't.
Anacondas too?
The Blood Orchids.
The Blood Orchids.
Is that another name for hemorrhoids?
Triple H.
Blood hemorrhoid.
So I think that's pretty much it with sequels. And now, kind of in this same vein of movies, Rick wanted
What?
to talk about musicals.
Yeah, because especially because when I first said musicals, you both looked at me
It's not
and like tried to
necessarily a guy
ignore me.
thing.
And
Is
no,
it
it's
a
not.
guy
It's
thing?
not a guy thing. But that's why it's a tricky thing because a lot of times people say like musicals, and you think of what? What's the first musical that comes to your head?
The Sound of
Hills Are
Music.
Alive. Yeah, thanks.
Sound
Yeah,
of
there you
Music.
go. Sound of Music, something like
Yeah.
that. That's you associate
Antiquated. and-
something else that's old and whatever.
Yeah.
But I was thinking more along the lines of like there's movies that again going back to the 80s. There's plenty of movies that had singing in them or had lots of music or musical numbers or dancing stuff that you can still consider a musical because
Right.
it's based around music or the
Singing.
structure. I mean even like a movie like Footloose, which even though it's not they don't
True.
sing, it's a lot of dancing and it's built into the movie.
It's
The
a
performance.
It's a dancicle.
It's a
Yeah.
dancicle.
Like the Batsicle?
Like the band, yeah, or like like Footloose or Dirty Dancing. I
Yeah.
would like
Yeah.
they're music movies. You know what I
Dancing.
mean? Like they're not musical in the sense where they're singing like Rent, where they're singing the whole way through.
Yeah.
But it's music. If you took music out of that movie, it would just be,
Yeah.
half a movie. Good place for that.
Did the mixer just get...
Oh,
no,
it's-
we're good.
It's fine. Still,
All right.
still rocking.
Blooper reel.
It's okay. It's Mike's. It's Mike's mic. But anyway, so that's why I was throwing it out there to throw a monkey wrench in the guy wheel. Is what's your favorite musicals? Now that you have a broad definition of it.
I would have to say, we were talking about it earlier. Little Shop of Horrors is something I remember fondly as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's still holds up.
Seymour.
Yeah, I love that movie. I think it's a great film. And it happened to be a musical. And I have a guilty pleasure to admit to. I think this is what Rick was kind of tugging on for me specifically. I really enjoyed. I can't remember the name of it.
Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages.
It was on his top 10 list of 2011.
It was not. I don't remember tweeting
Look
that.
up, hey, everybody out there, look up Mario's
was it on my Twitter
tweet
or my
timeline. On there, it'll say my favorite movie of 2000 whatever.
And it's my
Rock
Twitter
of
that
Ages.
I don't keep up anymore. It's I think Mario Arzam is what it is on Twitter. But anyway, I thought it was a very enjoyable musical that was such a horrible film that
I've never seen
became
it, so I
fun.
can't actually dog it. I like Tom
bad.
Cruise.
It was really bad, but there were aspects of it that I enjoyed. I enjoyed some of the music because it was some great music. I didn't necessarily enjoy some of how they rearranged it or whatever. I really enjoyed Tom Cruise as the character in the film because he made that character. Like, that's just Tom Cruise. I mean, he's done some great stuff during his comeback days after Pineapple Express? No.
Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder, thank you. I don't know why those two.
The Apple Dumpling Gang.
So, yeah, so I mean, him as was it Casey Jax or JC Jax or something?
I don't know.
I can't remember the character's name.
But they do like 80s songs? Is that what they're doing? Like 80s rock songs?
You got like Don't Stop Believin', and you got all this great music from that time period that is just really done well. And then you've got like, what's her name from Zorro, Catherine Zeta-Jones, like doing the worst acting ever in a film, and like a really crappy character too to begin with. But it's kind of like the Footloose idea too. It's like she's that character where she's like, oh, music is bad and blah blah blah, and then you find out. And spoiler alert, do you ever plan on watching it?
I will, but you can spoil it for me.
Okay.
Sure, it won't.
She's so against something that
she really wants to do it,
right? Because she used to be that way.
She's stifled.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, it's a great musical film that's just a horrible movie, but it's enjoyable because of that aspect. So I would say those would be the first two that I'd have to say.
Mikey?
Well, the one I last saw recently was the Les Miserables.
Mm-hmm. Les Mis.
Les Mis, man. I took in Les Mis, and
did you go see it with Cliff Huxtable?
I always say if a movie something can make you cry, they win. So that was pretty awesome. I had actually seen the PBS one before, where they just do the singing only, and they kind of make reference to what the scenes look like. So it's kind of neat to see it in its full form. Beauty and the Beast, that's a obvious one for me, animated. Musical, and then of course like Wizard of Oz. You never get tired of that.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is a musical.
Other things where music is in, Amadeus is one of my favorite musical based type movies. It's not a musical in the classical sense, but
it's a classical musical sense.
You're just too cute for words.
He's dropping bombs on you.
I know, man.
It's rhyming.
Look at how self-satisfied he is. Look at himself like they're.
Sorry, this is where I'd pull a Costanza. I'm here all week, and then I walk out.
But no, it's funny. Like I don't have any profiling against musicals at all. I'm not like against them or anything like that. I think for me it's just simply a lack of exposure. Like whenever I look up like top 10 lists of musical films or anything like that, I realize there's a lot I have not seen. Yeah. So it's a lot of stuff I'd like to give a shot to and just see what it looks like. But when you see like a lot of these movies, like Beauty and the Beast performed at like the Majestic Theater, it was an amazing performance of hearing the music and seeing it like as a stage production. Pretty incredible. So especially for me, just as a musician, being able to see those things transcribed like that is pretty stunning. So, and you?
Cool.
I think I probably think a couple off the top of my head. I would say definitely, and maybe it's like a Michael Pare show because it's like Eddie and the Cruisers, definitely. I mean, it's weird because looking back now, I remember as a kid it feeling so much more profound and like the story being deeper and stuff. And it's not, looking back now, it's not, but it's got really great music. It's got like the John Cafferty and the Brown Beaver Band doing like their best like Bruce Springsteen, kind of thing. And but it's great music. I mean, like to this day, I still listen to that album. I mean, separate from the movie. I love the movie, but I listen to that album because it's just really, really good music. And it's based on a novel, which if you ever get a chance, check out the Eddie and the Cruisers novel because it's really, really good. And you can really tell where the meat of that story is when you read the novel. They kind of had to dilute it a little bit for the movie because it's pretty depressing. But the music's great, and it obviously raises up the movie itself. Another movie also with Michael Pare is Streets of Fire, which I love. I would almost say a guilty pleasure, but not because I do enjoy it. I think it's a really cool movie. It does some. I don't know. Have you guys ever seen it?
No.
Which one?
Streets of Fire.
No.
Okay. Well, I'll give you 2 words that'll make you want to see it.
2 words.
Diane Lane.
Oh.
Okay. Diane Lane's
Sold.
like 19 years old in it, and she's of course
she's hot now.
Yeah. Exactly, but she does. She's like a rock singer. She's like, it's like they live in this kind of alternate '50s kind of universe or whatever. And there's like motorcycle gangs, and there's like these rock bands, but then there's like these like kind of like doo-wop groups, and it's just this real kind of weird like mix of genres and cultures and all this kinds of stuff. And it kind of throws in this guy who's like a mercenary coming back from some unnamed war, and his old flame is this rock star, and she gets kidnapped by Willem Dafoe's biker gang.
Oh, wow. And
so it's actually like, it's like actually kind of a cool little pulpy story.
Yeah.
But it's got some really great music. I can't remember the main songwriters, but it's like it sounds very much like 70s kind of like Meatloaf, like that real operatic, kind of has that musicality to it. But it's great. It's like there's a couple of songs on there that are just great, like no joke. Like look them up and they're really good.
That's awesome.
It's definitely a movie that if I ever had the opportunity and resource to do, I would definitely remake it. Even if it was my bomb, I would be happy because I would try it. I would try to make a remake of that movie because I've always dug it. And watching it as a kid, it was something that, like, again, like being a kid and not really being exposed to music and being like listening to cool music, whatever. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I would listen to. That's the kind of stuff that I thought, like, this is real music.
Yeah.
And the marriage of that with film, that I think it planted the seed, at least, of my interest in filmmaking and music and all that kind of stuff because of how it felt. Being like 5 or 6 years old and like not understanding a lot of the emotions that they're trying to show you and all this stuff, but getting it. In the same way, like you said, Little Shop of Horrors. I love that movie. Yeah. And it's the same thing. Like, you get it. Like, even if you're like 10 years old, you laugh at the, Steve Martin and Bill Murray and John Candy. But, like, you get the yearning. Like, the yearning that, like, Rick Moranis' character has for Ellen Green's character. You get it. And, as an adult now, you can listen back and still feel it, So that's why I thought it was worth to bring up that topic. Because
definitely.
I think it is, generally it's not, musicals probably wouldn't be a guy thing type of topic, but I think it is too, because if you kind of like open your eyes and expand yourself a little bit, you can see how, you're probably more in touch with some of these movies than you might think.
Another one that
even if you can't
forget, Oh Brother,
yeah,
Where Art Thou?
Yeah. Another great movie.
I forget that it's I love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Just a quick mention for that one.
Would you rather remake the movie or reboot the movie and change the timeline?
I would remake the movie.
Change the timeline.
I've casted it all in my head.
Change the timeline.
In the old timeline?
I would use the same music too.
Go back in time.
There's a song real quick before we go off of this topic. There's a song that to this day people probably still know and hear and not realizing it's from that movie. There's a song called "I Can Dream About You" that comes on. You'll hear it like on Kono or like if you.
I'd have to hear it.
If you heard it, you would
recognize
know
it.
And I think it's I'm gonna go blank on the guy's name right now that sings it, but Dan something. Anyways, so his version's a thing on the soundtrack, and it was one of those sad things because like the movie came out. That was like the single from the soundtrack, and the guy died. Dan Hartman. And he died before like the song ever blew up. And here it is, like 20 years later, the movie's kind of forgotten. It's kind of a joke, And it was like a freaking what's his name? Not Roger Hill. The guy that did like Beverly Hills Cop and like these big movies. It was one of his movies, But anyways, like I said, it's worth checking out because it does have some pretty cool, timeless music in it and some pretty fun, campy performances.
That's cool. Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the topic because, like I said, it wouldn't necessarily be a guy thing, but yeah, we are pretty familiar with a lot of musicals. There's some other ones that I was thinking of as well, but neither here nor there. We can cover that topic again later.
I definitely think they're a guy thing, though. And
I think so.
I think so. It's universal.
Yeah.
I grew up watching a lot of those Disney movies, not knowing that
That's
it
true.
was stuck in any specific hole of gender-specific.
And I'm
type
glad
stuff.
you brought up Disney because I didn't even connect it that those were all musicals way back
Right.
when Disney used to do that.
Yeah.
And now they're finally getting back to it. And now we've got Frozen, which is apparently blowing everything out of the water. And I mean, we took Dylan to the place at what's the name of the mall?
Wonderland?
No, the one right by
Rolling
us.
Oaks.
Rolling Oaks. I always call it. We always want to call it what everybody calls it. Itty Bitty Titty City or Titty
What?
City Mall.
What are you
Because the
talking
domes on
about?
the top, they look like
Who
boobs.
calls it that?
Like Sarah's grandfather, for one, was like
Whoa,
Titty
dropped
Mall,
him in the
Titty City Mall.
grease. I've never heard that.
So anyway, so we were there, and all these kids are
Grandfather?
yeah, Sarah's
Itty-bitty-
grandfather.
What? Itty bitty titty mall?
Is it Titty City.
That sounds gross.
What?
It sounds
Titty City.
illegal.
Yeah, it sounds horrible, but they look the
Titty
domes.
City.
Okay, so if you agree that what's the name of the mall again? I forget.
Rolling
Oaks Mall looks like it's got boobs on top of it. If you agree, let us know.
Wow.
If you disagree, let us know.
So basically, anything that's round looks
that
like
has
a boob.
that has a cap on the top of it, yes. That
They
looks
So-
look like nipples.
So,
is
like
what you're saying.
the original Hemisphere Arena, you thought that was just one giant
boob.
breast
One
by
boob.
itself.
But these are obviously more close together anyway. Anyway, so we were at that mall and in the play area, and all these kids started yelling, screaming parts of the song, and I had no idea what was going on. I thought there was mass hysteria going on with these kids because they're like, leave it out or whatever, throw it out. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And Sarah's like, oh, it's that song from that new movie Frozen. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, Disney's finally getting back into musicals. And I'm like, I hadn't thought about that they had gotten away from it for so long. But I'm glad you
musicals
brought it
rock.
up.
Musicals rock
Yeah,
across
they do rock.
all genders,
Yes,
all
they do.
genres.
They do.
Because everybody loves music.
You know what
That's
else
right.
rocks?
You know?
You know what else rocks, guys?
Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
Ghostbusters.
I seen
I got
shit
that
that'll
one.
turn you
I got-
white.
You know what's funny about Ghostbusters? You know who was supposed to be at this past year's Comic-Con?
Harold Ramis.
Oh, too
Oh.
soon.
What you asked the
God.
question?
Oh, my
I figured you.
God.
That's why you brought it up.
Blasted.
Wow.
Dude.
You crossed the line, sir.
Oh wow!
Ernie
At least I didn't cross the streams.
Oh!
Ernie Hudson was supposed to be there this year.
Really?
But he
Wow,
will be
he's-
there next year.
He's
Winston
big time.
Sedmore.
Winston, it was supposed to be there last year, but he
Big
will be
time.
there this
Cock.
year.
Why wasn't it there?
No, I don't know. Scheduling issues. I don't know. Maybe I think The Walking Dead
I actually
took
like.
over.
As much as I loved him in that movie, like I always associate him with the warden from Oz. That's what I think of him.
Oh, yeah?
most.
Yeah, that is who he is.
See, and I think more about him from The Crow. As
Oh,
the
that's
cop.
right, the cop. He's a good cop
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Good, great actor, underrated actor. But anyway, he was supposed to be at this past year's Comic-Con, and Rick and I got a chance to go representing 210, and we saw tons of crazy stuff there. We went. When did we go? We went Saturday, right?
It was the second day of it, and they were actually turning people away because
Yes.
there were so many people.
So we
there.
get there.
It was
What
cool.
time was it? Like it was around 6.
It was like 4 or 5, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
like 4 or 5. We get there, Mike, and like hundreds of people in line to get in, and they're turning them all away. Like, just nope. Sorry, you can't get in. People are all decked out in full cosplay.
Where was it held at?
At the convention center.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, of course.
But here's the problem with that: is that the guys that organized it did a great job for a first year kind of a thing. They didn't have a clue that this was going to be as big as it ended up being.
So
Like,
was it
huge.
was it the official Comic Con, just different city, like Comic Con San Antonio?
it's
like No,
its own
And they are-
independent
they-
thing.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But it'll be our annual Comic Con. Like they're already planning the new one. They're planning to get a whole lot more space. So they didn't expect that kind of a reaction because you think about Comic Cons back before they became huge giant conventions, and really Comic Cons were just like a 3-room little thing where you had the artists there to sign
Well,
whatever.
I always think of the conventions from Mallrats, or Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
Chasing Amy, when there's just
Tracer.
basically they're just there at the booths with copies of their
Yeah.
comic, and they're just signing
Just
it for a few
admit it.
fans.
You're a tracer.
Oh God, don't say that. I'm an inker too. I used
Mario's
to
a
ink.
tracer.
I used to ink in color.
What?
Yeah,
Just like you Flintstone, or what's it called?
Flint-napping.
No. Okay, so for like 3 weeks, I was an intern at
Mario's also a bird napper.
What's it called? The manga comic place. I can't even. Antarctic Press. I used to work at Antarctic Press, and I did colors there. And since I was an intern, I didn't get paid, and I also didn't get my name in the comic books. But I worked on 2 or 3 comics.
So there's no way for us to verify it.
No, not at all. Unfortunately, not.
He drew Spider-Man #1.
No.
Wow.
No. Anyway. But yeah, but like you
Spider-Man
said,
1.
like you said, Chasing Amy, like that was what the Comic Cons used to be. Now that
Right.
they're this big giant media thing, it totally changes everything. This year when Rick and I went, one of the things that I saw that, yes, okay, maybe this is anti-San Antonio or anti-Texas or whatever, but I'm not a huge wrestling fan, so there were a bunch of people there that I had no idea who they were, and there was a ton of
Virgil
them.
was there, dude. I'm not a wrestling fan. I know who Virgil is.
I told my old boss about
Ted
Virgil
DiBiase's
being all douchey.
bodyguard.
Oh, God.
He took care of the $1 million belt.
Well,
Virgil.
yeah, apparently he threw a fit too, right, Rick?
Virgil
he
threw
threw a fit about something. I don't know what.
He was a jobber in
Somebody
the ring.
stole his bow tie.
No, he was trying to sell his autograph to somebody, and like
They ran
he got
off
in
with
their
it?
he got in their face about it because they were like, or how much, and he was like, oh, it's this much, and they're like, no, and he was like, what? He got all crazy with them and stuff. You told me that.
No, I didn't.
Well, okay, you did tell me about the about.
I just saw
Sean
him looking
Astin.
all grumpy. Yeah, so
The Sean
we
Astin
tell my
story.
Sean Astin story.
Yes,
And I like Sean Astin.
Oh, I
I
think
don't
he's
know the
awesome.
guy, but I like his movies.
he's a lot shorter in person.
He's a little guy. He looks like a little librarian.
Which one will you take, Rudy or Lord of the Rings?
If I had to pick one or the other,
Yeah,
Rudy.
absolutely.
Yeah, but I would take Goonies over both of those.
Yes.
Oh, well,
Yes.
Yeah, or the Whitewater Summer.
Goonies, yeah, but I wasn't. That's not his. He's not a. He's a kid actor. He's
What's the
having
movie?
fun.
What's the other movie? Yeah, I would say Rudy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rudy.
So,
So anyway,
so story. So yeah, so they had the big U in the back where everybody's lined up to get autographs and pose for pictures and whatnot. And I remember like everybody was there and people were like lining up to see a couple people from The Walking Dead and Danny Trejo and whoever else.
yeah, Danny Trejo had a huge draw, and so did the original Batman and Robin.
Yeah, yeah. And but it was just funny because I was standing there like just kind of people watching, and the bigger the star somebody was, they had like handlers with them or somebody that was taking money for them and
Right.
stuff. And some of the lesser known stars having to like take their own money,
Or
and-
some of the ones that didn't need handlers because they're above that.
right, like Heather Langenkamp, she is above handlers. But yeah, so I'm standing there and like people are. It's creepy, 'cause especially nowadays where people seem to have less of a filter or barrier. People have their smartphones and like people literally like walk up to some of these actors and stuff. They would like take a picture like 2 inches in their face, like click, and then just walk off.
And they're selling pictures, too.
Yeah,
I mean, that's part of the point
and
of them being
granted,
there.
like some of these pictures are like $40, like a signed,
Yeah.
signed headshot of one of these, like Dirk Benedict or something, But it was funny because I remember I was standing there, and Sean Astin's just standing there being cool. He's wearing like a little blazer and like a bow tie and glasses and stuff, and he's standing there at his table,
Salt and pepper hair.
and this guy walks up to his table, and people were walking by doing exactly what I'm talking about, just taking a picture and walking by. And some guy walks up, and the guy's holding the headshot, and he goes, "Oh, great!" So he Sean Astin reaches out and grabs the headshot, sets it on the table, pulls out his Sharpie, and goes to autograph it.
Yeah.
Right, because the guy's walked up to his table with the headshot,
Yeah.
and he's like goes to sign it, and he goes, "Oh, this isn't my picture." And hands it back to the guy, and it was
Oh,
like,
my God.
and he turns red as shit, man.
Yeah.
And like, and the guy didn't seem too phased; he just
No,
kind of
he-
walked off or whatever. But I was standing right behind it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And it was kind of cool in the sense that I'm like, "Yeah, like everybody's human, man. Like everybody
Yeah.
has those moments where you're just like, oh man, I feel like a dork." And he probably left. It was like telling who was telling like Corey Feldman, "Hey man, what's up? I was at this ComicCon. Where were you? But you never would guess what just happened. I'm just a fucking dork, And it was sad. I felt bad. Like I literally wanted to walk up to him and be like, "Hey, dude, I saw that, but I would do the same thing." Honest mistake. It was hilarious, and
That was
my
funny.
most memorable.
No,
moment.
that was not your most memorable.
It was. I photobombed the Wookiee. Yeah. What's the
Peter
Mayhew?
Yeah.
I feel so bad for him. He had just he had just gotten back surgery.
Oh.
I found out he had just gotten back surgery like a few days
I thought
before
he fell
the
out
con.
of the Wookiee treehouse.
He probably fell out of the AT-AT getting out.
Yeah.
There's this giant of a man who's sitting in a wheelchair because he had just had back surgery, and I was like, man, he really doesn't look like he wants to be here. Well, yeah, he was in a lot of pain, and he struggled through it just like a good Wookiee would.
That's right.
But I would say your most memorable moment I would have been Redcorn, man.
Oh yeah, John Redcorn.
Yeah,
we
and
got
the call.
to meet him, which was pretty awesome. And yeah, that was cool. That was really cool. So yeah, the guy from King of the Hill was there, and he was selling his like barbecue sauce.
Yeah,
and signing autographs and all that stuff. And he was a really, really cool guy. And he even called Carol and talked to her on the phone using the John Redcorn voice, which was really awesome, and she was happy about it. So that was awesome. That was the other highlight of the event.
To me, for me, the biggest highlight was seeing all the cosplay. There were a lot of scantily clad female cosplayers, which was kind of awesome. Got to meet a couple of podcasters. And Mike, I mentioned this before, but we're dragging you to the next con. I know you didn't get to enjoy this one. And
To the con. You're going to the con.
Con me in. And don't forget American Psycho 2, also a terrible sequel.
That's true.
Horrible.
Mila Kunis disaster.
Oh, Lost Boys sequel.
There was two sequels. They were
sequels.
both complete and utter dog shit. And I remember watching like the special features on the second one. Was that like The Thirst, or no? That was the third one. Whatever the second one was called, it
doesn't matter.
But like they were like the producers or whatever were actually like they're like, yeah. So we're talking about like, dude, and this is like a sequel like fucking like 25 years later to a pretty badass like Joel Schumacher,
Original.
Sign of the Times like horror kind of fun movie. And after all these years, that's what they could come up with. And the guy's like, yeah, so we're thinking, like, what would vampires be like now in modern times? And vampires, like, they're bored. They've been alive for all these years, so they want to have fun, man. And, like, so I think they'd be extreme. They'd be, like, into extreme sports. They'd be, like, skateboarders and surfers. And that's what they do. Like, that's what their fun is. They go surfboarding in the middle of the night in the
awful.
dark. It's horrible.
So we'll close the night with that horrible image in your head.
Under Siege 2, Dark Territory, also a disaster.
That's very true.
Topic for another time in the future would be sequels that should be made.
Yes.
Should there be a sequel to A Few Good Men?
Yes.
Should we know how things turned out?
Oh, yes.
There you go.
Yes, I remember you saying that, too. All right, well, thanks for listening to the podcast, guys. This was episode 4, and we'll see you next week when we get it on.
You can visit us on our home on the web at www.itsaguythingpodcast.com, on Instagram and Facebook at It's a Guy Thing Podcast, and Twitter, It's a Guy Thing Pod. You can find us on iTunes and Stitcher Radio, and we'll be coming soon to many other podcatchers. Thanks for listening. We don't have any affiliate links or any sort of advertising set up for the It's a Guy Thing podcast just yet. However, as members of the 210 Podcast Network, we'll just play their advertisements. This podcast episode is brought to you in part by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day trial at www.210localmusic.com/audible. We get a nice little bonus if you do, and you can cancel at any time. There are over 150,000 titles for you to choose from for your iPad, Kindle, Android, or MP3 player.